Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Wander to the Edge. My name is Adam Asher. Zanne, how you
Good
doing?
morning.
Always good to see you, and it's
Thank you.
always great, to have these opportunities on Wander to the Edge to introduce one of our friends, great travelers from around the world. It's a privilege, just kind of a fun chat, but I mean, we sort of take it as our responsibility now to be sure to introduce
Yeah.
our other friends to introduce friends so they get to know some of these great people if they don't already. So today is absolutely no exception. We have a fantastic guest. She's a wonderful lady, and she is an experienced traveler. We're going to get to know her, and she has a great, wonderful spirit about her.
Yeah, she does.
Zanne, who are we meeting today on Wander to the Edge?
Today we are meeting the roaming nanny, and her name is Retha Charette. I'm really excited to have her. I'm so, well, you'll just see. Let's bring her on.
Here
Oh
she
my
is.
gosh.
Let's bring
You
her onto
said
the
so many
program.
nice
Yeah.
things about me. Thank you so much.
That's part of the strategy. A part of the strategy is to make you nervous, right? And because all this nice things being said
Yeah.
about you.
There's so many expectations now.
That's right. Now, just be wonderful. Go.
Okay, good.
Okay. This is
Yeah.
me being wonderful, I guess.
Well, let me start out just by saying, whoa. And for you, that has a particular meaning. So why don't you tell us a story about whoa, what it is, share with us, enlighten us, educate us, and we're excited to hear more about it.
Yeah. So I have to tell you a story before I get to whoa,
Okay.
because so I 9 years ago I was going through a divorce. And about 7 years ago, I was like, I got to do something really epic. So I decided to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, which is the tallest mountain on the continent of Africa and the tallest freestanding mountain in the world. And I had no idea what I was getting into. So I just booked an experience with a women's travel company. And on that trip, I met my adventure buddy, Laura. And when we got off the plane in Tanzania, we went in different directions because getting a visa there on arrival is just crazy. And she met my now boss, Allison, who is one of the co-founders of Whoa, in line.
Wow.
I didn't meet her. And Laura and I became really good friends on that trip. We had met for the very first time on the plane. Summited Kilimanjaro, went on a beautiful safari. And before we left, we were like, wow, this company, Whoa, is really cool. We should go on a trip with them. So the following year, we went to Peru and did now one of my favorite trips that I lead all the time, hiking the Salcantay Trek to Machu Picchu. And a year later, they hired me to work for them. So the whole thing was very serendipitous. Whoa, WHOA stands for Women High on Adventure. My bosses, Allison and Danielle, who are amazing bosses and now friends of mine, hired me to lead women on their adventures all around the world. So I've been really lucky to go to Everest Base Camp with them, Kilimanjaro again with them, Peru more times than I can count. I love that trip so much. This past year, I went to Japan with them, which Japan, oh God, I love it. It's my favorite country in the entire world. And I went right after that, I went to the other side of the globe and did a trip with them to Oktoberfest, which if you haven't been to Oktoberfest, it's wild and amazing. So we are an all women's adventure travel company, and we take women all around the world and we have dance parties all over the world. That's kind of our thing. Like, we love to dance. So if you go to like our website, we every year we come out with like a new dance video, and like it's really exciting. It's really, really fun, isn't it? Yeah. So it's really cool at the end of the year because you know it's coming. So like you tune into the video, and like, oh, did I make it into the video this year? Like, did I do it? What trips? Oh, and then because we're a huge community too, like if you go on one and it's your first time, you're probably going to be talked into going on another one with a friend that you met on that trip. It's crazy and amazing. And then you're like, oh my gosh, there's Sarah and there's Allison and all these people that you know. So it's really cool to kind of do that. So Yeah, long story short,
No,
we're a women's travel company, and we're so awesome, and I'm so excited to be a part of the WOA community, and it just happened very serendipitously in the world. I just can't believe. I'm so lucky to be a part of that community.
That is a wonderful endorsement. Our guest today is
Yeah.
I mean, that's good, and you can tell you're so sincere about it, and that makes it all worthwhile. So, Retha, let's put this into perspective, though. All right, you you began your first real trip to outside the United States. Your first real trip was to Europe. Tell us about that and your experience being drawn in by this desire to travel and to see the world.
Yeah, I was 19 years old. I went to the University of Massachusetts in Dartmouth, and I was a business major at the time. It didn't work out in the long run, but because I was a business major, when I went in, I got accepted into this really great exchange program through my university, and I got to go for the summer to Germany. And I took German both semesters my freshman year. And then that summer, myself and I think about 10 of us in the German program went to Germany, lived there for the summer. All on the weekends, we went to different places throughout Germany, and I just got sucked in. I grew up in a family that didn't have a lot of money. We went to Florida because my grandparents lived there, and we went to New Hampshire because I grew up in Massachusetts, and it's just right there. It's a straight shot up. And I had never experienced another culture ever before. So it was really, I just got sucked in. I remember being in Berlin on the weekend, and I don't know if it happens anymore, but I stumbled on a celebration called Love Fest. And I have no idea what it's about to this day. There were lots of pride flags. There was bad techno music. There was a giant parade. And I remember I saw a person naked in the streets for the first time, and like 19-year-old me was like, whoa, there's some naked dude just walking down the street. It was a total culture shock. But I was with a friend of mine, and this like float went by, and we were dancing and having a good time, and they pulled us up on the float. We ended up in the middle of nowhere at the end of the parade. It was confusing to get back to where we needed to be, but it was just like a great experience that specific day, because it was like, wow, like these people didn't know me. Like I was being safe. I was with a friend. I wasn't like just wandering and joining some people that I didn't know on a float and giving us beer and stuff. But it was just from that day, I was just completely enthralled with trying to experience the world as much as possible. And, the rest is history.
So far, you've done more in your life that you've described in the last 6 minutes than I've done my entire life. Let me just start off by saying that. And I mean, I noticed this theme that you just seize the moment, so far that's already appeared a couple of times. When I read your bio and you talk about, yes, you got divorced, so you just decided to hike Mount Kilimanjaro, like just kind of, this is what I'm going to do next. And, I think you described like throwing up along the mountain all the way up to the top, but what do you think when it comes to women and adventure? Because I think a lot of women feel this sense of hesitancy, the sense of fear.
Yeah.
Like, share with us, what advice do you have to kind of just, get over that and seize the moment?
That's a really good question. And like I said, my first, like when I got divorced, like, and don't get me wrong, like I don't regret getting divorced. He wasn't a bad person. He didn't like do anything to me. It wasn't a good fit. And I didn't want to live my life, not happy.
Right.
So Kilimanjaro was like me just being like, okay, I'm going to go and do this.
Yeah.
And like I said, I climbed the mountain with a women's travel company. And in those first few years when I was really traveling, I went with companies that like organized the trip for me. And I think for people that are worried about traveling and are concerned, like, how am I going to meet people if I'm by myself? Like, how do I know if things are safe? All the questions that go with it. Start easy. Don't make things complicated for yourself. Pick a country that you want to visit, or a region that you want to visit, and like go with a company. There's no people are like give this whole stigma of like, oh, I'm a solo traveler, and they kind of like crap on other people for like going with companies. But if that's what gets you to adventure and see the world, who cares? Does it really matter how you see the world? Is that as long as you're not harming other people, you're not like going to places and being detrimental to the area. As long as you're trying to get out there and experience the world, because the more we experience the world, the more we understand that really everybody's so much more alike than we really think we are, right? Like you go to, I went to Jordan, which was a spectacular place, and Jordan has a lot of places that are like within Islam, Judaism, and Christianity have places that are very significant in that area. The stories are really similar.
Yeah.
And we're so much more alike than we think we are. So just going out and trying to experience the world is the most important thing. Whether you go, my blog's tagline is adventure travel from the everyday to the epic. Because I think adventure is a spectrum. Not everyone wants to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I get that. And that's totally okay if you don't want to. But like one of the really great experiences that I had when I very, very first started my blog was I worked with a great hotel up in Lake Placid. And my boyfriend and I went up there in the fall. We went ziplining, we went kayaking, we went hiking. We ate some really good barbecue down in downtown Lake Placid. And if that's what adventure is to you, it's totally okay. So just don't limit yourself when it comes to adventure. Is like, long story short, just go out there and do what's in your comfort zone, because the more you do things, the more you're gonna like take baby steps out of that comfort zone. And maybe if you want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro but you don't think you can do it, maybe you'll get there, and maybe you won't, and you'll find another incredible journey instead.
And just dance when you're done.
And just dance when you're done. Always dance. Always dance. And the goofier the dance, the better, in my personal opinion.
Our guest today on Wander to the Edge is Retha Charette, and you can find out more information about her by going online to roamingnanny.com. Roamingnanny.com. Also, you can look her up on Instagram, Facebook, Roaming Nanny. So here's my question, Retha.
Go for
Where
it.
did the name come from? What's the significance of Roaming Nanny?
So my current partner, he and I met online on OkCupid before there were apps on phones, like on the computer. And I was in Vermont for the winter because I was working a seasonal job up here. And we just found that we had this really great connection. But I was working for an outdoor education company, and I was running a summer camp for the Girl Scouts. And I didn't have a way to move up here because I didn't have a job. So I went on care.com because I've always worked with children. And this family that I have been working for on and off for the past 7 years hired me. So I moved up here to Vermont, and I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro the first year that I was with them. And the kids were little at the time. They were, I mean, now like the oldest is like 13, and she's like, you know, doing her own thing and, you know, being a teenager as she does. And then I went to India, and then I went to Peru, and I was traveling all over the place, and they just kind of started calling me the roaming nanny, and it stuck. And because I was going on these trips, my friends were like, "Oh my gosh, you should do an Instagram." And I hadn't had an Instagram before, so I made one, and it was roaming nanny. And I would share things about my trips and like things I would do with the kids, because we would go all different types of places. I mean, I've been to Disney with them a couple times. I not so secretly love all things Disney. And it just stuck, and it's been kind of snowballing ever since. So on top of leading trips and writing for my blog and being a nanny at home, I'm also like a travel nanny. So I've traveled with a couple different families to different destinations around the world.
Wow. You mentioned the Girl Scouts, so I want to go back to that. So I think you have an interesting Girl Scout story for us as well.
I have a lot of Girl Scout stories. So this fall is my 30th anniversary as a Girl Scout. I'm a lifetime member, and I'm literally the person that I am today because of Girl Scouts. I was a Girl Scout all through school. I got the Girl Scout Gold Award, which no one knows what it is, but it's the equivalent to the Eagle Scout.
Yeah.
And it's a lot harder to get because there's a lot more hours and things go into it, because the girl has to do all of the work for the number of hours that she has to do. And then I was a troop leader for a while with some really little itty bitty girls, and I did that for about 4 or 5 years. And then I was a troop for the older girls, and we just traveled all over the place. And I ran a summer camp. I mean, I did all kinds of things, and I still do. I'm actually, COVID. I'm supposed to be in California right now, working with the Girl Scouts of Northern California to teach high school girls how to go backpacking. So for 2 weeks at a time, I'm supposed to do it twice. So 4 weeks total. And like 1 week we're like at camp and we're doing all the basics: how to pack your bag, how to cook over your little tiny stove, how foot care, because when you're hiking, that's super important, all the basics.
Yeah.
And then we like take the girls and we go on a backpacking trip. And for most of the girls that I was with last year, it was their very, very first trip. So that was super exciting. I actually, yesterday, the Girl Scouts of Northern California are doing like online camp.
Okay.
And I'm hiking the long trail in Vermont right now, which is not the longest. It's 273 miles, but it's the first long distance hiking trail in the United States. And so I was talking to them about like how to start hiking and like what goes into your bag when you do a day hike. And it was like a giant range of girls from like first grade to 12th grade. And they had so many great questions. And it was just working with young people, and especially young women, and trying to get them outside and teaching them about out the woods and hiking, or really just any type of adventure outside really fulfills my soul. Like I think it's one of the things that I was meant to do like on this planet. And I talked to the girls for about half an hour yesterday and answered some of their questions that were really great. And I finished that conversation online, even though it was like a Zoom call and that's what we're all doing right now. I felt so great that hopefully there were 87 girls that logged on to do it. I hope one of them is like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be like her and I'm going to go outside and I'm going to explore the world. Like if I can do that for one person, doesn't matter, mission accomplished. So Girl Scouts has just like led me to where I am today, which is, I mean, it's a really important organization for me, and I'm going to be involved with it in some way, shape, or form, probably for the rest of my life.
Retha, I gotta say here, as I listen to you talk, it's pretty clear that you have a heart for people, and I always admire that. And it kind of stands out to me. I hear your stories about the Girl Scouts and these other endeavors that you have where you take other people on these trips, right, through the companies that you're working with. And clearly that's something that's meaningful to you, right? And to get out, to travel, to have an adventure, see the world, interact with people, right? These things. So now I got to ask the unfortunate question that we're all asking of ourselves. How has COVID affected you, and how have you adapted during this time so that it didn't keep you down or get you depressed? How have you dealt with COVID, and the effects that it has had on the nation and culture at large?
I'm not going to say that I'm doing well, because I suffer from depression and anxiety and have for quite some time. I haven't taken medication in a really long time, and I started up on my medication that I haven't been on 4 years for the first time last week. So I'm struggling. I'm going to be honest. I can't fake that. In March, I was on an amazing safari with my friend Kate, with Yellow Zebra Safaris in Kenya. I got back, and like 3 or 4 days later, everything just fell apart. And then a week after that, all of my trips for the entire year were canceled. So at the end of March, I was supposed to go on a trip with my family to the Caribbean. I was supposed to go scuba diving for the first time in a while. And then I was supposed to go to Vietnam to visit a friend. And then I was supposed to go to Japan and lead a trip. And then after Japan, I was supposed to go to a women's travel conference. And then I had a couple press trips all organized, and then I was supposed to go to camp, and I have a laundry list of things that didn't happen because of COVID, and it crushed me. I'm, like you said, I connect with people, and I'm a total extrovert. So when I'm around people, that's where I get my energy. That's where I like just seeing people travel, and seeing people, especially with hiking. Like last year, I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro with our very first plus size women's trip for WOW Travel, and it was 20 plus size women climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, and I can't even say how inspiring that is to be thankful to be a part of that, and to see these women accomplish things. So like seeing them do that, just like it makes me feel for people, and just seeing people accomplish things just makes me happy. And being completely segregated, completely ripped apart from everything that I knew, was awful. So I went through a lot of phases. I went through a baking phase where I baked all the time. And then I went through an exercising phase where I was exercising constantly. And the phases are still happening. But the thing that I'm doing two things right now. I started hiking the Long Trail, which stretches from the border of Massachusetts up the ridge of the Green Mountains to the border of Canada. And I'm section hiking it because I do get to be with the children that I nanny for a couple days a week. They're kind of wearing each other's like COVID circles, as we're calling it. And I'm working to make my life and my home as plastic free as possible. So those two things, I'm really passionate about the environment, being outdoors. I want to see those places for forever. And I want the next generation and the young people that I work with to get to experience those places. So getting rid of single-use plastic out of my house is a step for me to try and make those places, stay how they are. So those are the two things that I'm doing now. I'll probably have another phase.
Yeah.
I know I'm section hiking the Long Trail with my friend Amy. And I tell every time we're out there, we usually do like 2 or 3 days at a time. And then in August, we're going to do 7 days straight to the Canadian border. I tell her every time I'm out there, like, this is what's keeping me going. Like this hike, knowing that every week we're going to come out here, we're going to be outside. I mean, it poured a couple weeks ago. We hiked in the rain for like 2 days, and it didn't matter. A bad day outside is better than a good day inside any day. But getting there, and I'm hopeful that things will get better. Yeah, I can't be super positive about that. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
I'm struggling as other people are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't help but think as you're talking, and I want to go back to the other two pieces, the plastic free and the section hiking, and learning more about that. But first, I just want to say, like, I can't help but be grateful if there's something that comes out of COVID. It's getting to meet and hear stories from people like you. I met you on Instagram. You tagged our hashtag Where Gals Wander. That's how I came to know you. And first of all, I get so excited when people do that. So when I went and saw your account, and I'm like, wow, and she's so cool. But like, I think having the opportunity for you to tell your stories, like to those girls, the Girl Scouts, and to us, and who will share it with, like, you're inspiring so many people. And to hear the thoughts behind it versus seeing the pictures, where you may see the picture and think, I could never do that. But then hearing you talk about it, like right now, I think I could do anything, Oh,
you can. You can do anything. You can.
So I wanted to make that comment, so maybe if there's a silver lining out of all this COVID is the difference that you're having in people's lives directly. So
I hope so. Thank you so much. That means a lot, because I want to help people. I want to inspire people, and I don't care how. Just some way.
So did we talk about Daimsley yet?
No, we have not.
Okay, then let's do that, because I know you work with WOW Travel. You've explained that, what a wonderful organization that is. And you need to tell us about Daimsley And then
Yes.
for both of those, right, for people that want to find out more about either of those, they can go to your website, right?
Yes,
Okay.
I do have. So let me tell you about Daimsley first, and then I'll give you the whole spiel. So just like with Woe, got involved with Daimsley in a totally strange and crazy way. The founder of Daimsley, Kelly Lewis, is now a really good friend of mine. I met Kelly because she does everything. Kelly's like a Renaissance woman. She writes guidebooks. She's writing a book right now about women's inspiring stories. That's her COVID project. And she runs a travel festival called Women's Travel Fest. Allison and Danielle, my bosses from Woe, were speaking at Women's Travel Fest like 2 or 3 years ago. And so I went to support them and just to be with other women that love traveling, and met Kelly for like a hot second. Just to say thank you, and that I had a great weekend. And then, leaving that weekend, I thought I could do anything. Flash forward to like a year and a half later, I went to Antarctica with a bunch of women that I didn't know. We were all just going on this boat, and Kelly was there. Kelly was on the boat. We connected. We got to know each other. And I said, hey, Kelly, if you're ever looking to expand your company, let me know. I'd love to lead trips for you. And about a year later, she called me. I was at a travel conference, and she's like, hey, you want to go to Cuba in December? I said, sure, let's do it. And so last December, I led my first trip with them. Kelly came down, so it was like a training to get the vibe, because every travel company is different. Like, you can't just say, oh, all these travel companies are the same, because they're not. Each company has their own space, has their own, thing that they're working on. And so I went to Cuba, had never been to Cuba before, had an amazing time. One of my friends came, who's a fellow travel blogger, brought her 86-year-old mom, because it was her mom's dream trip. Oh gosh, talk about like life-changing experiences. Watching this 86-year-old woman experience the country she wanted to go to for her entire life almost brings me to tears. Actually, it has in the past brought me to tears. And then again in January, I went back to Cuba, had another amazing time with a group of 4 women that actually throughout COVID we're in a little group text together. And how's everybody doing today? Because one's a doctor in Kansas City that's working with COVID patients directly. One is in Texas. One lived on Long Island, which that was an epicenter for a while. So it's been really great to just check in with all these women every once in a while. Like, how's everybody doing? Because that's the type of community that you create, especially when, in my opinion, when it's a group of women, a small group of women. So Daimsley, we really get into the meat and potatoes of a country. We're not adventurous like Woe is. It's completely different, and equally as amazing. So in Cuba, we go horseback riding. We go to the beach for the day. We take tours around the different cities that we visit. We learn about tobacco farming, and it's a completely different vibe, but I feel like I've gotten a really good taste of what Cuba is. If things change in the fall, we might be going to Egypt. I'm really keeping my fingers crossed because I love Egypt and I want to go back there. And it's more history, it's more cultural, but it's still really like honest. We work with some local people there that really answer questions and don't sugarcoat things. Like Cuba has a very tumultuous history with the United States. So our local guide there, she is spectacular and she will answer any question. And she's gotten a lot of them. And it's a completely different experience, but I'm really excited to be involved with it because Kelly just creates a really safe space for women. And the women that I've had on the trip are also different. They all come from different backgrounds and like have different reasons for coming on the trips. And it's a really beautiful thing to be a part of. So if you want to find out more about Daimsley, you can go to daimsley.com, DAMESLEY.com, or you can look them up on Instagram at @Daimsley. And to find out more about Woe Travel, you can go to woetravel.com, WHOA travel.com, or look us up on Instagram @Woe Travel.
I want to go back to the section hiking because how do you do that? Like, I'm baffled. Like, how do you do sections at a time along the trail?
Lots of driving.
Okay.
And normally it wouldn't be so hard because we do like 2 or 3 days at a time. We try and get people to like drive us or pick us up at different places that we know to be safe with COVID. But it can be hard. So Amy and I will figure out where we're going, our starting point and our ending point, drive north, leave a car, drive south, start hiking. And then pick up the car and then drive back south. Sometimes we have friends that we both know that are in our little circles. And I have to say that, like, we're not being unsafe. Vermont has so few cases because of, like, the way that we live here. Like, I can't even, like, when I look out my window, I can't even see another house. Like, we're not, like, really, really packed in, except for, like, in Burlington, which is, like, the big city in Vermont. So we're not being unsafe. I assure you that. I just want to put that out there. I don't want people being like, oh, you're not following the COVID regulations. And then, but normally it would be super easy because we would just hike and then hitchhike back to the car. Or like call one of the trail angels. People that help long distance hikers or people that are hiking are called trail angels because hiking wouldn't be possible without them. So we do that, and I literally have my backpack always packed at this point because I go out every single weekend. Wow. So we've hiked over 130 miles so far. We hit the halfway point a couple weeks ago.
Okay. Wow.
It's really exciting. I can and when I'm having a hard time, because we're in the part right now, Southern Vermont is really easy. And then as you get further north, the mountains get higher. It's more rocky. Like last week, coming down the mountain, there were like metal rebar into the side of the rocks that we had to like climb down as a ladder. And it was the first time we had experienced that. So the further north you get, the harder it gets. So we're getting there. It's a little dicey some days, especially if it's going to rain, but we're getting there. And in those hard times, I just keep visualizing. There's a monument at the end, and it's called Journey's End. And there's a trail called Journey's End that leads you out to a parking lot. And like when it's getting hard, I just keep visualizing like that moment when I see it and like how I'm going to feel. And it really keeps me going because it sucked to hike in the rain a couple weeks ago for 2 days.
And we can follow along on your hike and your journey on your Instagram.
Yes. Yeah. I was posting some things that I believe in recently when it comes to like Black Lives Matters and amplifying Black voices. And while I'm still doing that with my Feature Fridays, I really wanted to kind of show what I was doing to help me cope with COVID. And all the things that have been happening. So I just started posting. I actually posted my Southern Terminus photo today with like the big sign that says, "This is the long trail." After posting some things, if you go back a couple days, you'll see some like goofy photos of me because my friends think I always take really nice photos all the time.
Yeah. Which,
if anyone that does Instagram or blogging tells you that they always take nice photos, they're lying. You don't always take nice photos. So I posted some goofy ones, but now I'm back on track to share what's going on the trail and what it's like to hike. So come check it out.
Well, Retha, I have one last question for you.
Sure.
And as we talked today about how much adventure and hiking, the time outdoors means to you and how it helps you. I think, you even have shared how it's therapeutic, I guess, in so many ways, important ways. So as you speak today to perhaps someone who hasn't been doing that, right? Maybe they're not a hiker, maybe they're not really an outdoor type person, but they've been thinking about it, and especially having COVID come along and take so much of this away from us. Now, as we begin to think, okay, as we begin to clear this, people are thinking about making life changes. And what would your encouragement be? I mean, how does hiking and the outdoor type activities, how does it bring a healing or a therapy?
That's a really heavy question. I mean, for me, it's just being close to nature and realizing that things are simpler than we make them out to be. I mean, when you're hiking, everything that you need is on your back. I've got my water, I've got my water filter, I've got my food, my as little clothes as possible because clothes get heavy. You know, and my tent and my sleeping bag. And for me, it makes everything so simple. Because especially if you do longer hikes, my longest hike has been 2 weeks, and you get into a groove. Like everything is easy. You get up, you eat, you hike, you eat, you hike, you stop and you like swim in a pond. Like you sit and you look at this beautiful mountain view. I mean, last Sunday night, I went out with Amy, and my boyfriend came with us because he had Monday off. And it rained a little bit in the cabin that we were in. So we're inside, we're eating, and then all of a sudden the sun starts coming out. We're like, oh, there's got to be a rainbow. And we had this beautiful mountain view next to the cabin that we were in, and huge rainbow, the brightest rainbow that I have ever seen. Like, and I was able to just sit and enjoy that. Where like if I was at home, I'd be like, oh, I got to do this and I got to do that and I got to contact this person and I got to write the story, and that's great, and I genuinely love doing that. But hiking makes me stop and it makes me think and enjoy the natural things that we have in the world. And if you're out there and you're thinking about doing it, just do it. I don't encourage anyone to just go out into the woods when they don't know what they're doing. That's just unsafe, especially now because search and rescue teams are just stretched thin because they're trying to stay home. They're trying to be safe for their families. But like, go on a day hike. Like, find a hike in your area and just start small. You know, once everything starts getting, you know, back to normal or the new normal, go to your local REI or your local outdoor store. A lot of them offer like free or really inexpensive classes on how to, you know, plan a long hike. Or, you know, there's organizations that will just like take women out to be together as women. There's a couple groups online that you can look up and go hiking with, that it'll make you more comfortable. And just start small. You don't have to climb Mount Kilimanjaro the first time out. I didn't start hiking when I did Kilimanjaro. I hiked before that. You don't have to, you know, conquer the Appalachian Trail to be a hiker. You just got to go out and enjoy what's in your own backyard. It just goes back to like adventure travel, from the everyday to the epic. A small hike can be adventurous. Just look for the small things. Look for the beautiful orange fungus that's growing off a tree, or like the little toad that's on the side of the trail, or, you know, go skinny dipping in a lake. I don't care. Just go have a good time and enjoy that moment. And don't compare it to anything else, or, you know, this view could be more beautiful. This hike could have been harder. Who cares? Just go outside and enjoy yourself. That's the first step.
Well, thank you, Retha, so much for joining us today. You're inspiring, and I encourage people to get to know you better. We can look you up, Retha Charette, at roamingnanny.com. That's roamingnanny.com. And then for those of you that prefer Facebook, look her up on Facebook, Roaming Nanny, or check her out on Instagram. Great Instagram account. You definitely need to check that out. And you can pretty much find her anywhere as Roaming Nanny. Our guest today, Retha Charette, joining us here on Wander to the Edge. Thanks so much for your time. Thanks for your inspiration. As we're all telling each other this, you know, hang in there. This too shall pass. We're going to get through this, and it has been awful. But listening to you today also points out some of the wonderful things we're learning from it. So thank you for that. And just thanks for being an inspiration and for your time today here on Wander to the Edge.
Thanks so much for having me. Bye.